I want a divorce, she said casually, like ordering coffee. I smiled and replied, that sounds good. She expected me to fall apart, to beg, to fight for our 20-year marriage. Instead, she got something she never saw coming. Some men break when betrayed. Others have been planning. My name is Dwayne Harwick. I'm 47 years old, and I've spent the last 20 years thinking I knew who I was married to. The boys were away at college. The house felt too quiet, and my wife had been acting strange for months. I figured it was empty nest syndrome. Turns out, I was dead wrong. I want a divorce, Vivien said Tuesday morning, standing in my home office doorway like she was delivering the weather report. No preamble, no emotion, just 4 words that should have destroyed me. I looked up from my laptop, where I'd been reviewing quarterly projections. She stood there in her designer workout clothes, coffee cup in hand, waiting for me to fall apart. The morning sun streamed through the windows behind her, making her blonde hair glow like some kind of twisted halo. That sounds good, I said, turning back to my screen. The silence stretched between us like a wire about to snap. I could feel her staring, probably wondering if I'd heard her correctly. Truth is, I've been expecting this conversation for weeks. The private investigator I'd hired had been very thorough. That's it. Vivien's voice carried a note of confusion. You're not going to ask why. I saved my document and closed the laptop. Would it matter? She shifted her weight, and I caught the first hint of uncertainty in her expression. This wasn't going according to her script. She'd probably rehearsed this moment, maybe even practiced her wounded expression in the bathroom mirror. I thought you'd want to talk about it, she said. What's to talk about? I stood up and walked to my coffee maker. You want out, you're out. We'll keep it clean. The truth was, I'd known about Damien for 3 months. My old business partner, my former best friend, the guy who stood up at our wedding 20 years ago. The same man who helped me launch my first investment firm, then tried to steal my clients when I wouldn't cut him in on the hedge fund. But Vivien didn't know that I knew. She had no idea about the DNA tests I'd ordered for the twins, or the offshore accounts I'd been quietly setting up. She thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. The boys will need to know, she said, still hovering in the doorway. They're adults. They'll handle it. What she didn't realize was that Liam and Lucas weren't my biological sons. The lab result had arrived last week, confirming what I'd suspected for years. They looked nothing like me, acted nothing like me, and had their real father's eyes. So that's it then? Vivien asked. 20 years, and you just agree? I poured myself fresh coffee and met her gaze. Sometimes the best move is knowing when to fold. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. She'd expected tears, anger, desperate pleas to work things out. Instead, she got acceptance. It clearly unsettled her more than any emotional outburst would have. I'll have my attorney contact yours, I said. We can divide everything fairly. She nodded slowly, still looking confused. Okay, I guess I'll start looking for a place. Take your time. After she left, I sat back down and opened my laptop. There were calls to make, plans to finalize. In exactly 4 weeks, Vivien would discover just how thoroughly I'd prepared for this moment. The boys called that evening, like they always did on Tuesdays. Liam went first, his voice bright with the energy that only college kids possess. Hey, Dad, how's everything at home? Liam asked through the speaker. I was in my study, reviewing the forensic accounting reports my team had prepared. 23 offshore transactions over the past 2 years, all traced back to accounts controlled by Damien Cross. Your mother and I have some news, I said, setting the documents aside. We're getting divorced. Silence. Then Lucas's voice joined the call. What? Dad, what happened? Sometimes marriages run their course, boys. It's nobody's fault. That was a lie, but they didn't need to carry the weight of their mother's choices. Not yet. Is Mom there? Liam's voice had gone flat, professional. He was studying business at Northwestern, already thinking like an analyst. She's out. You can call her directly. Dad, Lucas said, and I could hear the emotion building. Can't you guys work it out? Get counseling or something. Lucas had always been the emotional one, the peacemaker. The irony wasn't lost on me that he'd inherited that trait from his real father. This decision is final, son. But nothing changes between us, understood? Of course, Liam said quickly. We're adults. We get it. But I could hear the confusion in his voice. 20 years of what looked like a stable marriage doesn't just end without warning. They'd want explanations eventually, and when they did, I'd be ready. After we hung up, I pulled out the DNA report again. 99.9% certainty that neither boy share my genetics. 20 years of birthday parties, baseball games, and bedtime stories for children who weren't mine. The betrayal cut deeper than Vivien's affair. At least with her, I'd chosen blindness. With the boys, I never suspected until they hit puberty and looked nothing like either side of my family. My phone buzzed. A text from my attorney. Asset transfer complete. All accounts secured. Phase 1 was finished. Vivien would discover tomorrow that I'd legally moved our joint investments into protected trusts. Not theft. Everything was documented and legitimate. But she'd lost access to the funds she'd been slowly siphoning to support her new life with Damien. The house felt different now, like a stage set after the audience had gone home. I walked through rooms filled with 20 years of memories, most of them lies. Family photos on the mantel showed happy moments that had been performance art. Tomorrow, I'd start looking for an apartment. Something modern, clean, with no emotional baggage. Somewhere I could begin again with someone who actually wanted to be there. My phone rang. Vivien's number. The boys called me, she said without preamble. They're upset. They'll adjust. You could have let me explain it my way. Your way involves more lies. They've had enough of those. She was quiet for a moment. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I'll be working late tonight. Don't wait up. Dwayne, what's gotten into you? This isn't like you. She was right. The old Dwayne would have spent weeks agonizing over every detail, trying to save a marriage that had been dead for years. The old Dwayne believed in second chances and working things out. The new Dwayne had seen the bank records. Good night, Vivien. I hung up and returned to my files. Phase 2 would begin next week. The moving truck arrived at 7 in the morning, 3 days after Vivien's announcement. I'd hired professionals, military precision, no emotion, just efficient execution. Each box was labeled, every item cataloged. 20 years of shared possessions, divided with surgical accuracy. Vivien stood in the kitchen doorway, coffee cup trembling in her hands. You're really doing this? Contracts are signed, I said, directing the movers toward my office. Everything's documented. She followed me down the hallway, her voice rising with each step. Dwayne, this is insane. We haven't even talked about counseling. I stopped and turned to face her. What would we discuss in counseling, Vivien? How you've been transferring money to Damien Cross for 2 years. The color drained from her face. She set her coffee cup on the hall table, her hand visibly shaking now. I don't know what you're talking about, she said. 23 transactions. $47,000. All traced back to accounts in his name. I pulled out my phone and showed her the bank records. Did you think I wouldn't notice? She stared at the screen, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. How did you get these? I'm a hedge fund manager, sweetheart. I investigate investments for a living. You and Damien were a very bad investment. The movers carried my desk past us, and I stepped aside to let them through. Vivien pressed herself against the wall, suddenly looking very small. It's not what you think, she whispered. It's exactly what I think. The question is, how long has it been going on? She didn't answer, but she didn't need to. The oldest transaction I'd found was dated 3 years ago, right around the time Damien and I had our falling out over the hedge fund partnership. The boys don't know, I said, and they don't need to. Yet. Her voice was barely audible. That depends on how cooperative you are during the divorce proceedings. One of the movers approached us. Sir, where do you want the safe? New address, I said. Everything on a master list goes with me. After he left, Vivien grabbed my arm. Dwayne, please. We can work this out. I made mistakes, but we can fix this. I looked down at her hand on my sleeve, then back at her face. Some things can't be fixed. They can only be replaced. What does that mean? You'll find out soon enough. The movers finished by noon. I walked through the empty rooms one last time, checking for anything they'd missed. The house felt like a museum now, full of ghosts and broken promises. My phone buzzed with a text message. Dinner confirmed for Friday. Looking forward to it. S. Serena Walsh. My attorney had introduced us 6 months ago at a charity gala. Brilliant, successful, and refreshingly honest about what she wanted from life. Everything Vivien had pretended to be. I pocketed the phone and headed for the door. Vivien was waiting by my car, arms crossed over her chest. "Where are you going?" she asked. "To start over." "With who?" I got in my BMW and rolled down the window. "Someone who knows the value of truth." As I drove away, I could see her in the rearview mirror, standing alone in the driveway of a house that would soon be all she had left. The penthouse apartment overlooked the city like a watchtower. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, and not a single photograph from my previous life. I'd chosen everything myself: black leather, steel fixtures, and clean lines that spoke to purpose rather than sentiment. Serena arrived at 7 sharp, carrying a bottle of wine and wearing a smile that actually reached her eyes. She was everything Vivien wasn't: punctual, genuine, and professionally successful in her own right. "This place is incredible," Serena said, setting the wine on my granite countertop. "You have excellent taste." I had good motivation. She laughed, a sound I'd almost forgotten existed. "How are you holding up?" "Better than expected. Would you like the grand tour?" We walked through the space, and I found myself seeing it through her eyes. The home gym where I'd been working out my frustrations. The office with dual monitors displaying real-time market data. The bedroom with its view of the skyline. "It's very masculine," she said diplomatically. That was intentional. We settled on the couch with wine, and she studied my face with the attention of someone accustomed to reading people. Serena ran her own consulting firm, specializing in corporate restructuring. She understood calculated moves. "So," she said, "how did your wife take the news about your rapid relocation?" "About as well as expected. She's still processing the reality that I'm not the pushover she married." "Men change when they stop accepting unacceptable behavior," Serena said. "It's usually shocking to everyone around them." My phone buzzed with a text from Lucas. "Dad, can we come see your new place this weekend?" I showed Serena the message. "The boys want to visit. How do you feel about that?" "Complicated. They're good kids, but they're not actually mine." Serena raised an eyebrow. "Biologically, DNA test confirmed it last week. 20 years of fatherhood based on a lie." She set down her wine glass and turned to face me fully. "That must be devastating." It was. "Now it's just information." "Will you tell them?" "Eventually. Right now, they need stability. Learning their mother is a liar, and their father isn't their father, might be too much truth for one semester." Serena nodded thoughtfully. "You're protecting them from the fallout of their mother's choices. Someone has to be the adult." We talked until midnight about business, about life, about the difference between what people say they want and what they actually choose. Serena didn't need me to fix her or save her or complete her. She was already whole. When she left, she kissed my cheek at the door. "Thank you for a lovely evening. Thank you for being exactly who you appear to be." After she was gone, I stood at my window looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Vivien was probably calling Damien, telling him about the bank records and the moving truck. Let her. Let them both panic. I'd spent 20 years building a life on someone else's foundation. Now, I was building on bedrock, truth, preparation, and the understanding that some people earn your loyalty and others simply exploit it. My phone rang. Vivien's number. I let it go to voicemail. Monday morning brought the phone call I'd been expecting. Vivien's voice was sharp with panic. "Dwayne, what did you do?" "I can't access our investment accounts." I sipped my coffee and watched the sunrise through my penthouse windows. "Nothing illegal. Everything's been moved to protected trusts." "Protected from what?" "From you." The silence stretched long enough that I wondered if she'd hung up. Then came the sound I'd never heard from her before. Real fear. "You can't do this," she whispered. "This is my money too." "Actually, it's not. Check the paperwork. All major investments were made through my hedge fund using my capital. Your name was on the household accounts for convenience. 20 years of marriage means something legally. So does adultery. So does theft. So does fraud." I heard her sharp intake of breath. "I never stole anything. $47,000 in unauthorized transfers disagrees with you." My lawyer had been thorough. Every transaction Vivien made to support Damien's lifestyle was documented, categorized, and legally classified as misappropriation of marital assets. "I'm calling my attorney," she said. "Good idea. Tell him to review the prenuptial agreement we signed. Section 7 covers adultery clauses." She hung up without another word. An hour later, my phone rang again. This time it was Damien Cross himself. "Dwayne, we need to talk." "No, we don't. This is bigger than your hurt feelings. You're destroying people's lives." I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. I'm destroying lives? That's rich coming from you. Look, what Vivien and I have is real. We never meant for it to happen. You never meant to get caught. There's a difference. We can work this out. There's enough money for everyone. There was enough money before you started stealing it. I'll pay you back. With what? Your consulting business is broke. I've seen your books. The line went quiet. Damien had no idea how thoroughly I'd investigated his finances. His business was surviving on cash infusions from my wife, and now that pipeline was permanently closed. You're making a mistake, he said finally. The only mistake I made was trusting a snake. I ended the call and blocked his number. Let him panic. Let them both scramble to figure out their next move. I had work to do. My assistant knocked on my office door. Mr. Holloway? Serena Walsh is here for your lunch meeting. Send her in. Serena entered with her usual confidence, wearing a navy suit that meant business. But her smile was warm, genuine. You look pleased with yourself, she said. Good morning to you too. And yes, I am. Care to share? Vivien discovered her new financial reality today. How did she take it? About as well as a child discovering there's no Santa Claus. Serena sat across from my desk, crossing her legs elegantly. And how are you feeling about all this? Relieved. For the first time in years, I know exactly where I stand. Which is free. Lunch with Serena became the highlight of my week. We went to a small Italian place downtown, away from the circles where Vivien and her friends might appear. Not that I was hiding. I just prefer my new life without unnecessary drama. So, Serena said over wine, tell me about these boys of yours. I hesitated. This was the conversation I'd been avoiding, but Serena deserved honesty. They're not actually mine. Biologically, I mean. She set down her glass slowly. How long have you known? Confirmed last week. Suspected for years. That must be devastating. It was. Now it's just another fact to deal with. Serena studied my face with the attention of someone who reads people professionally. You still love them. I raised them. Love doesn't stop because of genetics. Will you tell them? Eventually, when they're ready to hear it. She reached across the table and touched my hand. You're a good man, Dwayne Holloway. I'm a man who's done being taken advantage of. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Our food arrived, and we shifted to lighter topics. Serena told me about her latest consulting project, a family business torn apart by sibling rivalry. I described my newest investment opportunities, companies built by people who understood loyalty. Can I ask you something? She said as we finished dessert. Anything. Why me? You could have anyone. I considered her questions seriously. Because you're exactly who you appear to be. No hidden agendas. No secret motives. You say what you mean. That's it. That's everything. She smiled, and I realized how long it had been since I'd seen genuine happiness from a woman who wasn't performing for an audience. I like spending time with you, she said simply. The feeling is mutual. Walking back to my car, Serena linked her arm through mine. Have you thought about what comes next? You mean after the divorce? I mean after you've finished winning. I stopped walking and looked at her. What do you mean? You're methodically destroying your ex-wife and her lover. You're succeeding. But what happens when you've won completely? It was a good question. I've been so focused on the chess game that I hadn't thought much about the end game. I start over, I said finally. With what? With who? I was hoping you might have some thoughts on that. She smiled and stood on her toes to kiss my cheek. I might have a few ideas. That evening, I sat in my apartment reviewing the divorce papers my lawyer had drafted. By any legal standard, Vivien would be lucky to walk away with the house and her car. She'd gambled our marriage on Damien Cross and lost everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Liam. Dad, can we call you tonight? Lucas and I have been talking. I stared at the message, wondering what the boys had discussed. Whatever it was, I'd handle it the same way I'd handled everything else. With truth, preparation, and the understanding that some conversations can't be avoided forever. Friday evening arrived with perfect timing. I was setting the table for dinner when Serena arrived, carrying flowers and wearing a dress that made my penthouse feel like home for the first time. These are beautiful, I said, taking the bouquet. I thought your new place could use some life, she replied, kissing my cheek. We were opening wine when my doorman called. Mr. Holloway, your wife is here. She says it's urgent. Send her up. Serena raised an eyebrow. Should I leave? Absolutely not. You have every right to be here. When the elevator opened, Vivien stepped out looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her usual perfect appearance had been replaced by wrinkled clothes and desperate eyes. She stopped short when she saw Serena. "Who is this?" Vivien demanded. "This is Serena Walsh," I said calmly. "Serena, my ex-wife Vivien." Serena extended her hand with professional grace. "Nice to meet you." Vivien ignored the gesture, focusing on me instead. "We need to talk. Privately. Whatever you need to say, you can say in front of Serena. This is inappropriate. We're still married. Only on paper. And not for much longer." Vivien's eyes darted around my apartment, taking in the expensive furniture, the city view, the evidence of a life she hadn't been invited to share. "How can you afford this place?" she asked. "The same way I afforded our old life. By working. I mean without me. We built everything together." I nearly laughed. "You contributed what, exactly?" "Spending money I earned while sleeping with my former partner." She flinched as if I'd slapped her. "That's not fair. Fair would have been honesty. Fair would have been faithfulness. This is justice." Serena moved closer to me, not possessively, but supportively. The contrast between the two women was striking. Serena confident and self-possessed, Vivien desperate and grasping. "I can explain about Damien," Vivien said. "No need. I have bank records, hotel receipts, and recorded phone calls. Your explanation is irrelevant." "Recorded calls?" Her voice went up an octave. "I told you I investigate investments. You and Damien were very bad investments." Vivien's composure finally shattered completely. "You can't do this to me. I have rights. You had rights. You forfeited them when you chose theft and adultery." She looked at Serena with pure hatred. "And you're just going to stand there while he destroys a 20-year marriage?" Serena's response was calm and measured. "I'm standing with a man who refused to accept unacceptable behavior. That's admirable, not destructive." Vivien turned back to me. "The boys will never forgive you for this. The boys will understand when they're old enough to hear the whole truth." "What truth?" I met her eyes steadily. "All of it." Something in my tone made her step back. She knew about the DNA tests. I could see the knowledge in her face. "You need to leave now," I said. "Serena and I have dinner plans." Saturday afternoon brought the call I'd been both expecting and dreading. Liam's voice was tight with confusion and anger. "Dad, we need to talk. Lucas and I drove home last night. How's your mother? She's been crying for 2 days. She told us about your new girlfriend." I walked to my window, looking out at the city while choosing my words carefully. "Serena is someone I care about. Your mother and I are divorced." "The papers aren't even filed yet," Lucas interjected. He was on speaker. "The marriage ended months ago. The paperwork is just formality." "She says you're trying to take everything from her," Liam said. "I'm protecting what I built. There's a difference. This isn't like you, Dad. You're acting like a completely different person." I sat down heavily. These boys have been my sons for 19 years, biology notwithstanding. They deserve some version of the truth. Sometimes people show you who they really are, and you have to decide whether to accept it or protect yourself. "What does that mean?" Lucas asked. "It means your mother made choices that ended our marriage. I'm dealing with the consequences." "What choices?" I hesitated. They weren't ready for the full truth about Damien, about the money, about their paternity. But they needed to understand that this wasn't arbitrary cruelty. "She's been having an affair for over 2 years. She's been taking money from our accounts to support him." Silence. Then Lucas's voice, small and hurt. "Who?" "Someone you both know. Someone who was supposed to be a friend." More silence. Then Liam, his voice harder now. "Damien Cross." "Yes." "Holy, I knew something was wrong," Lucas said. "She's been acting weird whenever his name came up." "The important thing," I said, "is that this doesn't change how I feel about either of you. You're my sons, and that will never change." What I didn't say was that biology had already changed everything. They just didn't know it yet. "Are you happy?" Liam asked suddenly. The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "With this new life. With Serena. Are you actually happy? Or are you just getting revenge?" I thought about it seriously. I'm peaceful for the first time in years. I'm with someone who values honesty. I'd call that happiness. And Mom, your mother will figure out her own path. With Damien, that's not my concern anymore. After we hung up, I realized that Liam's question had forced me to examine my own motives. Was this happiness, or was it just the satisfaction of winning? Looking around my apartment, thinking about Serena, considering my future, I realized it didn't matter. Whatever this was, it felt better than anything I'd experienced in the last 5 years of my marriage. My phone buzzed with a text from Serena. How did the conversation go? I typed back, better than expected. See you tonight. Looking forward to it. For the first time since this whole situation began, I was looking forward to something too. 3 months after the divorce papers were signed, Lucas called with news that didn't surprise me, but still cut deep. Dad, I need to tell you something. Liam and I had a long talk, and we've made a decision. I was in my office, watching the city wake up through floor-to-ceiling windows. Serena sat across from me, reviewing contracts for her latest consulting project. She'd been spending more time at my place lately, and it felt natural. What kind of decision? I asked. Liam wants to move in with you. He's tired of the drama at home, tired of Mom's lies, tired of Damien hanging around like he belongs there. My chest tightened. And you? I'm staying with Mom. Someone needs to look out for her. Lucas had always been the protector, the one who tried to fix everyone's problems, even when those problems weren't his to solve. Son, you don't owe your mother anything. She made her choices. I know, but she's still my mom, you know? And Liam's angry, really angry. He says things that worry me. I understood Liam's anger because I felt it too. Learning that your entire life was built on lies tends to have that effect. What kind of things? He wants you to tell everyone about the DNA test. He wants Damien publicly exposed. He's talking about changing his last name. Serena looked up from her papers, eyebrows raised. The family drama had been a constant background noise in our relationship. And what do you think? I asked Lucas. I think Liam has the right to be angry. I think you both do. But I also think Mom needs someone who doesn't hate her. That was Lucas, trying to save everyone, even when they didn't deserve saving. Your brother can move in whenever he wants. The guest room is ready. What about college? What about money? Nothing changes. You're both still my sons, both still provided for. After I hung up, Serena set down her papers. How are you feeling about all this? Liam's making the right choice. Lucas is making the loyal choice. And you? I'm making peace with the fact that some people choose truth and others choose comfort. That evening, Liam arrived with 2 suitcases and 20 years of accumulated anger. He looked like a stranger, harder, older, carrying himself with a purpose I recognized. Thanks for letting me stay, he said, setting his bags down in the hallway. This is your home now. No, he said firmly. This is your home. You earned it. The other place was built on lies. We sat in my living room, and I studied this young man who shared no DNA with me, but somehow carried my values. What do you want to do about Damien? I asked. I want him destroyed. Financially, professionally, personally. That's a dangerous path, son. He destroyed our family. He stole from you. He's been lying to my face for years. I understood his rage, but I also understood the cost of revenge. What if I told you I already have everything I need? New life, new relationship, new peace. What if the best revenge is just being happy? Liam looked at me with eyes that held too much adult knowledge for a 19-year-old. Then I'd say you're a better man than I am. You'll get there. Anger is a starting point, not a destination. What about Lucas? Lucas made his choice. We respect it, even though he chose wrong. There is no wrong choice when you're trying to love your family. Liam nodded slowly, then asked the question I've been waiting for. Do you ever regret raising us? Knowing we weren't really yours. I looked at this young man who'd chosen truth over comfort, who'd walked away from lies even when they were easier to live with. Never. Not for a single day. 6 months later, I stood in my apartment watching Serena get ready for the charity gala we were attending together. She moved through my space like she belonged there, because she did. You look beautiful, I said, adjusting my tie. You clean up pretty well yourself, she replied, kissing my cheek. Liam emerged from his room, wearing the tuxedo I'd bought him for the occasion. At 19, he carried himself with confidence that reminded me of myself at that age, focused, determined, uncompromising about his values. Ready? He asked. Almost. Are you sure you want to come? It's going to be boring business talk. I want to learn. Besides, someone should keep an eye on you too. The gala was everything I'd expected. Wealthy people congratulating themselves while writing tax-deductible checks. But it felt different attending with Serena and Liam, like I was representing something real instead of performing for an audience. During dinner, my phone buzzed with a text from Lucas. Saw the photos online. You all look happy. Miss you. I showed the message to Liam, who sighed heavily. I miss him too, Liam said. But he made his choice. The door's always open. I know. He knows too. Midway through the evening, I spotted Vivien across the room. She was with Damien, both of them looking like they were trying too hard to appear successful. Her dress was expensive but desperate. His smile was forced, and they both carried themselves like people pretending to belong. Don't look now, I murmured to Serena, but my ex-wife just arrived. Serena glanced over casually. She looks diminished. She was right. The Vivien I'd married 20 years ago had been confident, vibrant, secure in her place in the world. This version looked like she was playing a role she didn't quite understand. Should we leave? Liam asked, having spotted them too. Why? We have every right to be here. As the evening progressed, I watched Vivien and Damien work the room with increasing desperation. His consulting business was failing. I knew because I still had contacts tracking his finances. Her divorce settlement had been minimal thanks to the adultery clause and the documented theft. They were playing a game they couldn't afford to play, in a world that no longer welcomed them. Mr. Holloway, a voice said behind me. I turned to find Jonathan Pierce, one of the city's most successful venture capitalists. Jonathan, good to see you. I want to thank you personally. That tip about Damien Cross saved my firm a considerable amount of money. I'd quietly let it be known in financial circles that Damien wasn't trustworthy with other people's money. The industry was small, and reputation was everything. Just sharing information between colleagues. After he walked away, Serena smiled at me. That was ruthless. That was justice. As we prepared to leave, Vivien appeared at our table. She looked older, tired, wearing makeup that couldn't quite hide the stress lines around her eyes. Hello, Dwayne. Vivien. Liam. Her voice was small when she addressed her son. Mom, you look good. Happy. Liam's response was measured, but not cruel. I am happy. She nodded, then looked at Serena. You're very lucky. I know, Serena replied simply. I hope you understand what you have. I do. Vivien turned back to me. I want you to know that I'm sorry. For all of it. I studied her face, looking for manipulation or performance, but found only genuine regret. I appreciate that, I said. Are you happy? It was the same question Liam had asked months earlier. The answer was the same. Yes, I am. She nodded once, then walked away. Driving home with Serena and Liam, I reflected on how completely my life had changed. The family I'd built was chosen, not inherited. The love I'd found was honest, not performed. The success I'd achieved was protected, not vulnerable. So, Serena said as we entered my apartment, when are you going to ask me to marry you? Liam laughed, and I realized that was answer enough. Some foundations crumble under pressure. Others grow stronger. I'd built my life on bedrock this time.